So another way to fix the UV sim problem is that you can use a different software called Mudbox. Okay, so if you want to download Mudbox, you can go to Autodesk. So Mudbox is made by Autodesk, and you can get a free account by creating account in their website and just download accordingly. Okay, so this is what Mudbox look like. Okay, so I suggest you to go through the quick tutorial, right, and just go through the navigation and the menu. Okay, so in this case I'm just going to use the basic head. Okay, so Mudbox is a software that allows you to sculpt object and also texturing. Okay, but in this case we're not going to be doing some sculpting, right? So we're just going to be focusing on the texturing portion. Now, the good thing about Mudbox as compared to Photoshop is that it allows you to import a 3D object and you can paint directly. So it's a much easier job when it comes to UV scenes fixing. Okay, so again, the navigation is pretty much the same like in Maya, and there is this layer menu just like in Photoshop. Again, since we're going to be focusing on the texturing portion, we're going to skip the sculpting and just jump to the second tab, which is paint, and make sure this is set to paint as well, because this is going to be your paint layer. Okay, again, this is what Mudbox look like. So let's say I want to paint something, I can just like easily click this brush. Right now it's set to paintbrush. Okay, so whenever you try to paint a texture without having a layer, because right now the layer is empty, right, Mudbox will ask you to create that new layer, right? So just press OK. So this is the name of the layer. You can rename it properly, right? The resolution for it, the file format when you save it up, and the channel. Okay, so as for now, we're just gonna leave it as it is. Okay, so this is what paint brush look like. Okay, so this is just a very simple color, and you can change the color by clicking here. Okay, so I'm gonna change to red, and I can get something like that. Okay, so a very simple brush. And again, the option in Mudbox is very simple. You can also turn on the mirror, right? So if I turn on this mirror, I'll get something like that, right? So the left side and the right side will be identical. Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind when you want to import object to Mudbox is that the object must have UV. Okay, so if you look at on the left tab on the top, this object already has UV. Okay, so without UV, the Mudbox doesn't allow you to paint upon, because there is no a canvas, or there's no UV shell to be painting upon. Okay, so make sure your object that you're going to import to Mudbox have UV inside. Okay, and again, you can change like the size by increasing that one, or you can tap square brackets. This is like left square bracket to reduce and right square bracket to increase. Okay, and you can also use your Wacom, because your Wacom will have the pressure sensitivity. Okay, and that's the basic of the paintbrush. Okay, so I want to delete this layer. We don't need it. Press delete. Okay, and I'm going to use projection. Okay, now the way the projection works is that you can put a picture in front of the object, and Mudbox will project that picture onto the surface of the object. So let's say I have this moss picture, right? So while it's selected, okay, make sure this is set to stencil, not stem. Okay, there's a different thing. So if you want to use a projection, this is set to stencil, and I have this. Oh, there's a grass. Okay, so I want to project this grass texture on his face. Okay, so I'm just going to click it. So make sure this is set to projection, and they're gonna ask you again like, please make a layer, and just press OK. Okay, so as I paint, as I project, this grass texture is being projected on his head. Okay, so I can make this bigger. Right, so I click and drag, and I get something like that. Okay, so that's a very basic tool that you can use in Mudbox. And with this, we can fix the seam pretty much easy. So if you look at the UV, right, there is a border somewhere along the top of his head, right? It probably is somewhere here. And if you notice, okay, let's hide this projection so you can look at this side menu. So S and middle mouse button will move, S left mouse button will rotate, S and right mouse button will zoom in or scale, and Q to hide. Okay, so you can notice like the seam should be happening somewhere there, but since we're using Mudbox and the projection brush, you can tell like the seam is hardly visible. Okay, so that's one good thing using Mudbox to fixing up the seam. Okay, and again, if you want to show the projection, you can press Q, right, and continue your work. Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's the basic about using Mudbox. Okay, and if you want to export the texture file, you can right click and then save. Okay, so right click the diffuse and export. Okay, not the individual layer, but rather the group layer here, and you can right click and then export. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to just put it somewhere in desktop, and you can rename to, yeah, maybe head texture, and you can choose a file format, JPEG, PNG, or whatever. Okay, so that's a quick tutorial on how you do your texturing in Mudbox. Now, one more thing before we stop, you can press Shift L, right? So this is the default mode. Okay, so the default mode in Mudbox, it has light, right? So as you can see, like this object, it has some shadow, but if you want to have a flat light to see what the texture look like, you can press Shift L, right? It's like this. So this is after, without light, so everything's pretty much flat, right? This is what your texture look like. Okay, when you open that JPEG or PNG in Photoshop, but when you press Shift L, right, this is what the texture react under certain light, right? So Shift L will toggle this to mode. Okay, sometimes I use this unlit mode, so it's easier for me to judge the texture, how it look like, and to see if there's any like bad seam that I have to fix. Okay.